Today's question of the day is by Christina. Hello, Julia. What is your tip if I crave salt or salty foods immediately after eating fruit? For me, it's hard to eat a full day of fruits because I crave salt. I'm already supplementing with minerals. That's a great question, and I feel like you already kind of answered your question in the question, if that makes sense. So if you know my channel, you know that I do not recommend eating only fruit. I personally haven't had success with it unless I had quality access to, watermelons, melons, and coconut water, which are some fruits, even though coconut water isn't really a fruit, but some sweet things that naturally contain a lot of sodium, but our body does need sodium. But if you have an unnaturally high craving for salt, then that can definitely be caused by a sodium-potassium imbalance. Now, the reason we want to have a good balance of sodium and potassium, so most people in our society have way too much sodium in their bodies and way too little potassium. Potassium-rich foods, for example, are bananas. That's why I eat at least 5 bananas every day if I have ripe ones, or things like dates, stuff like that. But even things like tomatoes are also high in potassium and in sodium, so those can help with salt cravings as well. But yeah, I definitely recommend a mixture. Now, for me, for example, personally, I don't have access to high quality melon year round or to an abundance of coconut water, so I eat veggies, I eat salads, I eat steamed vegetables. And I love vegetables. Vegetables are amazing. And I feel like, especially at the end of the day, when you feel like you need something grounding, having a nice meal together with some veggies is just the best. So I've tried at times to just eat only fruit, but it has definitely not worked. And at those times, I also found myself wanting to go to saltier and more numbing foods. So yeah, that is very important to, first of all, notice. Now, why is it important to have that potassium and sodium balance? It's not just to prevent salt cravings, and also why is it important to keep the salt low? So for me personally, I've just experienced when I eat too much of it, I get swelling and water retention, I look puffy, bloated. Also, just my digestion isn't as good, and I can also see it impact my sleep, my energy levels. It just dehydrates the body essentially, because inorganic salt that is not naturally contained in things like vegetables, it is not something that the body knows that well how to deal with, so it retains water to flush it out of the system. Our kidneys and livers have the ability to flush that salt out, so there's no need to worry about it and be obsessed about not eating any salt at all, even though I know people do it, and I've had periods in my life where I have just been completely salt-free, and I do definitely feel my absolute best doing that. But then again, salt is also kind of in a lot of things that, like condiments and stuff like that, so it is not necessary, in my opinion, to avoid it completely, but just being aware of how much we take in can help, and also reducing it really, really slowly. So not going from one day to another and saying, okay, I'm never going to have salt again, but to just slowly let the taste buds adjust to a new way of eating where we're using less salt. And that way we no longer feel like the food tastes boring, because our taste buds renew every 21 days. So for me now, something that tastes super salty, for my parents, for example, they need to add some salt to it because they're not used to that amount of salt in the food, just as an example. Also, another tip that I have found really, really helpful is to exercise, because exercise pumps our lymphatic system, and through that we can pump out some of that sodium and help reestablish that sodium-potassium balance. And then, of course, also eating lots of whole foods that contain the natural sodium, that is what our body really truly needs and can absorb and process the best. And I personally keep my salt intake to, usually I have a lot of days where I don't eat any salt. So usually when I eat fully raw, I feel like the food already has so much flavor naturally that I don't feel the need to add anything, especially if I keep my vegetable intake high as well. So I have a salad for dinner or something like that. But if I have something like a cooked meal, then I add sometimes condiments that have salt, and I make sure that it is less than, 1 or 2 grams of salt in that meal per day. Since I'm doing the raw to 4 lifestyle, so I have fruit for breakfast and lunch usually, and then for dinner a cooked meal, and then in that time I sometimes add condiments that contain salt, but I keep it under 2 or 1, usually under 1 gram, and that way I just feel like my salt cravings isn't really that high, and I help my body to maintain that sodium potassium balance. And then also things like spices and herbs can be super helpful to make things still super flavorful, because we don't want our food to taste boring and bland, but again, we don't need to add salt to experience that. In fact, I actually feel that the more whole foods and fresh foods I add to my food, and the less salt, and if I really focus on high quality produce in my meals, then they are so much more flavorful compared to if it was something bland where I just add a bunch of salt. Yes, the salt kind of gives a kick to it, but I also feel like it disappears. Like I just had breakfast with a nice smoothie bowl with frozen berries and bananas, and I had some fresh kiwi, golden ones, and bananas and apples in there, and I feel like with every bite you have, the experience becomes more intense and flavorful and amazing, versus with salted cooked food, even though I still appreciate that, and I'm not saying you should eliminate that completely out of your diet, but I feel like the more you eat of that, the less you actually, the less of a kick and the less stimulating it is, versus with fruit. I wouldn't really say it's stimulating, but it's just exciting and alive. Like you can just feel the food you're eating is alive. So do I have any more tips here with the salt? I think that's pretty much it. And then also to stay hydrated. So to keep our hydration levels high, of course, eating lots of living foods that naturally contain HO3. So that is the natural water filtered by the plant, which hydrates the body. And then also drinking lots of water and exercising. If we are taking in, salt, then exercising and sweating that out to help the body. All right, we're in the kitchen, and I just have one product that I want to mention real quick. This is not sponsored, but just something I really, really love. This barley grass juice powder, and I'll put a link in the description down below, which will give me a small commission. And I could probably make a ton more money if I would just sell some cheap manufactured barley grass juice powder, because this is really, really expensive. The bag costs, I think, $50 or something like that. But it is so tasty. I've tried other barley grass juice powders in the past, and I had to throw them out because they were so disgusting. And I'm not eating anything that tastes disgusting, even if it is healthy. That's my mentality, if you know me. But this is so nice. It gives you that kind of salty kick, and it also helps, get in some sodium, so that way we won't crave as much salt. And a way I really love enjoying that is just with cucumbers, with baby cucumbers. I just wash them and I dip them in, and it's a really salty, crunchy, nice snack. So I just wanted to share that I'm really, really in love with this product. So if you're struggling with salt cravings and you would like a natural way to reduce them, then this is definitely going to help you. Link is in the description box. Oh yeah, and that juice powder usually lasts me about half a year, so you don't have to buy it that often. So that's, I think, less than $5 a month. And it's so tasty, and I'm eating quite a bit. So yeah, for me, it's kind of like a treat, like chips or something. That's kind of how I look at it. And yeah, but if you don't want to spend $50 on BJG powder, then you can also just eat more potassium-rich fruits like bananas, and that way you will naturally help balance out the sodium potassium balance in your body, and you will feel amazing and your salt cravings will go away, I'm sure. All right, those were all my tips. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comments below and I'll answer it in another video. Have a great day. Bye.